Well, good morning and welcome to this mFiles Quick Tips. I'm actually very excited about today's session. We're going to be talking about, and I'm going to be demonstrating the new user interface that is going to be available at the end of October. So the next release of mFiles that happens at the end of the month. Let's take a look at our agenda. Oh, a quick reminder. If you do have a question during today's webinar, please post it in the chat window. Also, if you would like to receive an email that went out earlier to all Marco customers, maybe you weren't on the list, please put your name in the chat window along with your email address, and after today's session, I will send you that email. In that email includes some great shortcuts to mFiles on going through what is contained in the new interface, what is not, as well as setting up the new protocol that I'll be talking about momentarily. Okay, today's session, we're going to be talking about why did they make this change? Basic navigation inside of the system. I will cover just very lightly today the search. It is not fully available. The search right now is sort of the basic search. Advanced search is coming in a future release, which I will cover searching in the new interface in next month's Quick Tips. I'll also talk about what's not here and how mFiles is addressing that. Let's get started. Oh, before I go too far, if you could show me a raise of hands if you can hear my voice. I want to make sure everybody can hear my voice. So if you just raise your hands real quickly, awesome. Validating everybody can hear me. Thank you. You can lower it by clicking it again. Okay, so why did they make this change? Great question. Basically, mFiles is modernizing the technology stack. Basically, they're getting rid of some of the stuff that doesn't need to be there anymore, but also updating to include some of the new stuff. What does that do for us as a user, and what does it do for mFiles? Number one, what it does for mFiles is it streamlines the development. Currently, right now, they have two different streams developing content for, or I should say, developing information for the interface for the web, interface for the client. They've been trying to make those look the same. What they've done by going to this new protocol is they now can develop for one and cover both areas, the client and the web. It's going to give you that modern, clean look in the interface, which you'll see in a little bit. What other value adds are you getting? Easy vault navigation, where you can switch between different vaults. A lot of people utilize multiple vaults with mFiles. The advanced search, which you will see in next month's webinar, has really been updated, and you'll even see a little bit here today, but some really quick and clean responses coming back from the search. Very nice. They've expanded some of that history and activity feed instead of just that bland comments that you get before or a screen with lots of information. They've really simplified and cleaned that up. More features will be coming in the future, with this modernization and the new protocol. So, when is all this happening? I said this is happening at the end of October. Reality, or truth be told, they've been actually incorporating the new interface with previous updates of mFiles. You had to make some registry edits to actually see it. The other requirement, you had to be on the new protocol, and that is the gRPC protocol. Now, a quick thing to talk about with this protocol, it is something where you have to make a change. Now, if you are not set up on the new protocol and the release happens, end of October, you will see no change. but it is highly recommended that you do update to the new protocol in the future. The classic view of the mFiles interface will be going away in the future. The other thing that happens if you are in the new protocol at the end of October, you will see your interface will have a new option in the upper right-hand corner. It will be a toggle, very similar to what Microsoft did when they rolled out the new Outlook. So you would be able to toggle between the new interface and the old interface, or what they're going to call the classic. Now, by default, when this change happens and you have the new protocol, you will open up mFiles in the classic interface. And then you will control if you want to see what the new interface looks like. The other cool thing that mFiles is doing is they've created an email address for your feedback. And that is a new desktop at mfiles.com. The idea that mFiles has is with the toggle, as they're adding more features to the interface, they're not penalizing anybody because you can go back to the classic interface and do what you need to do. If there's something you would like to see a change or a tweak on something, send that email to mFiles directly. As I mentioned, you need to use the new protocol. If your server is in the cloud, your server is good to go. So then the change you're looking at is making a change with your clients, and that is setting up the new protocol. If you're using a local server on your network, there are some additional changes that do need to happen. Now, that email that I talked about at the beginning of today's session, I can send that out to you, and it contains a link for going through the steps on setting up that new protocol on your server. It does require another certificate as well. Let's take a look at the new interface. Now, what I'm showing you right now is this is a classic. And if you take a look in the upper right-hand corner, there's my toggle. And very simply, I click up here and I can switch to the new interface. And let me do that here real quickly. So it takes a moment, restarts, and opens up in the new interface. As you look at it, sort of squint a little bit, you can see how it's more modern looking. Let's go through some of the navigation areas. Up here at the very top is where you switch vaults. When I click on this, it brings me back to a screen allowing me to switch to a different vault. If I don't like this setup, I can go to the Windows Explorer type view. Here in the middle is my search, and I'll come back to this to talk more about this as well. Over here is that toggle we talked about. Here's my create, and here's the notifications. Down the side here, I have my tabs for metadata, preview, and this is the mFiles AI. Oh, this is help. I was going to talk about this too. If you're looking for the latest information on what's changing with the release, you do want to click on this and visit the mFiles community, and that will give you the latest and greatest information dealing with the new release. Over here you have your basic navigation. Not much has changed here. Now, some of the cool things that we can take a look at is if I go and take a look at a document here. So I'll go to John Larson. So when I talked about the history, if you take a look now at your metadata card, up here is that history or show activity. Look at how they've streamlined that and give you some more views into what has actually changed. And very simply, if you want to do the rollback, it is located right here for you to do that. And then we just click on it again to go back to the normal view. When you take a look at preview, they've added some advanced preview up here at the top. So you can explore that. You can do a lot of nice things with that as well. Let's go back to the home screen. One of the other things is a lot of people like the feature of being able to pin a view. That was nice. But how about if we're able to make a new tab? We're now able to customize our own navigation. So I can make this a tab, which adds it right up here at the top for my navigation. If I want to take it away, very simply go back to that view and remove the tab, giving me the capability of customizing my navigation. Let's explore a little bit of the search the way it is right now. So when I go up here, what they've done is they've added some capabilities to mFiles, giving you suggestions. So I'm going to type in the word application, and you can see mFiles has gone through and looked at my whole vault, and it has come up with some items that maybe I want to filter on. So I'm going to select classes application. So when I click on search, it brings me that information back. And you can see here the classes application. Now, you heard me say earlier that I said they're going to be adding more to this in the advanced search. Notice to the left here is where I can see some of my capabilities. This area will actually, you'll see more capabilities added here where you can add more filters and more, so you can get down to exactly the document you're looking for. Right now it's sort of limited, but they will be adding to this area in the next release. Now, once you go to this, you can remove those filters very easily. No problem with that. We'll go back to the main screen. The other thing that was added here as well is when I go into a view, up here to the left of my search, I am now also able to control where mFiles is actually searching. If I'm going to be searching the whole vault, or if I'm just going to be searching within that view. So a lot of great flexibility there. I'm going to click home. Okay, now one of the things I talked about at the beginning, mFiles is giving you that toggle because it realizes that not all the features are here in the new interface that you've become accustomed to in the classic interface. Let me give you some examples. You cannot do a drag and drop. You cannot drag a document into mFiles and drop it for it to be added. Over here, the task pane or taskbar is not available at this point. A lot of people use that for workflow. Creating a view inside of mFiles. If we go back here to the plus sign, you'll notice views is not listed here. So again, you would be able to go back to the classic and be able to do those things. Advanced search that we already talked about is not available at this time. So if you're always using that advanced search feature, that's something you would have to go back to the classic view until that next release. Now, one of the other things that people are looking into as well is where do I go for current information? Now, it's a question I just saw come in here, and let me bring up my web browser here real quick. And basically what I navigated to is I navigated to the mFiles help. And this is the question mark in the upper right-hand corner. You're going to see information provided to you and keep you current with the mFiles community. If you've not visited that icon with a question mark in the upper right-hand corner, I highly recommend visiting that and staying up to date on some of the information that mFiles is providing. Again, I want to open it up for my audience. If you do want to get that email, or you didn't get the email that we sent out at Marco talking about this new UI or interface, please put your name in the chat window and along with your email address, and I will send out that email after today's session. In that email, including some really great reference links for setting up the new protocol, as well as some of the items that are contained or not contained. The other thing I want to talk about that a lot of people are concerned about is what is missing. I talked about a few items, but mFiles has created a document that goes through and compares that feature. And the featured list here is basically they break it down on the different categories on what you're doing. You also see things that they're evaluating. So if there's something they're evaluating that you think is a high priority, please make sure you email newdesktop@mfiles.com to make sure that information is given to them so they know that, hey, this is a big thing. People want this. We got to make sure that we include that because that's something that people are looking for. In this document, and this is included, one of the links in that email that I was talking about, you can see there's different categories. You know, you got creating content, you've got editing content. So it talks about and breaks down this information on a item by item basis. What I want to do at this point is I do want to open it up for questions that you might have at this point. So please let me know if you do have a question. You can post your question in the chat window and I will try to answer it. Those are the two questions I got that came in right away. We'll see if we get any other ones. We got a couple people sending me their email and requesting that. Great question here. I've got one. You mentioned no drag and drop and no workflow steps unless we toggle back to the classic view. Will these features eventually be eliminated? I don't think they'll be eliminated, but there might be a change to that. And let me talk about those a little bit. The workflow feature is probably one of the biggest items that people like using that task area for. So I don't know how they're going to address that. That's something they're going to come up, they're looking at very hard. But when you take a look at your documents and you're actually viewing and you know they're in a workflow, you do have the capability of advancing in that workflow from the bottom of the metadata card. Now, the other thing that was talked about here is the drag and drop. A lot of people like adding documents very simply by using the right-click feature and going to the Add to mFiles. So I don't think the drag and drop loss is that big of an issue. But I do understand the workflow, and I'm not quite sure how that's going to be handled. I do recommend sending an email to mFiles and voicing your concern on how you use that task pane today, or if you like the advantage of using it down in the metadata card. Great question. Are there any other questions? Give you a couple minutes here. Silence is acceptance. So this will be made as a recording. So if there's other people that you do want to view this webinar, please visit our Marco webpage. Go down to the very bottom, and down at the bottom you'll see Knowledge Base, ECM, and go to the Marco side of it, and you'll see it broken down where we have our mFiles quick tips, and you'll see that posted within the next day. It'll take you to YouTube, or you can view it right there. As I mentioned, next month, November 19th, I will be covering searching in the new interface. Also, at the end of today's webinar, please take a moment and complete the survey. If you're not quite sure or haven't registered for our webinars, if you scan the QR code, it will take you right to that page for registering for the webinars. Oh, we did have another question come in. If we use drag and drop currently, will Marco help us make changes to our workflow? We will definitely help people in this new interface moving forward. Please remember, you are in control with that toggle feature. And also, we're always here available for your needs by going to the software at marconet.com or giving us a call. I would like to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Have a great day.